Now entering Nerdist.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Today We Learned, a podcast of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, get the full title in there of sorts. Thank you so much for tuning in again and downloading this podcast every week and listening in, and just thank you for all your feedback and all that, and we really appreciate it. This is a really fun episode. It's just me and this guy hanging out, chit-chatting about fun facts and, you know, learning about the ways of writing and stuff like that. And it's a very fun episode. A lot of laughs and fun facts here. So we're gonna just get to the chase and get to the show, so you guys can listen to more podcasts today. So I'm not gonna ramble on anymore. Without further ado, Today We Learned number 120 with Jonathan Aibel.
Today we learned. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Today We Learn. My name is Razzle, as always. Dan is not here, but it doesn't matter because we have an awesome guest, ladies and gentlemen. We have one half, I would say, of the very talented writing team of quite a few movies I actually enjoy. Jonathan Aibel, ladies and gentlemen, is here in the studio, part of the writing team, Jonathan Aibel and Glenn Berger. Glenn's not here. He's writing Kung-Fu Panda 4 right now, or the outline. Not quite yet. I was reading here there's supposed to be 6 of them, supposedly. Can you verify that? Or is that like that depends on how this new movie does?
I can verify that was said.
That was said. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Happy
I'm
to be
excited.
here.
Thank you. As I told you 2 minutes ago when you got here, we like to start off each episode with the guest providing either a fun fact about themselves or something you learned recently.
I have a fact.
I love it. Let's hear it.
This may be a local to LA fact.
Okay.
We'll see if it spreads to as many countries as this podcast. But
Okay. Well, we got a lot of listeners and throughout. I mean, we got quite a few in the UK.
Well, this was I was buying my bottled water.
Okay.
Cases of them at Smart and Final, which is a chain of
love that
stores.
place.
And something I found out is that I thought it was called Smart and Final because you're smart for shopping there and the sales are final. But no, it's the names of the two founders.
Yes.
Mr. Smart and Mr. Final.
Yes, that's awesome. I'm so glad you know that, too, because we actually discussed it. We had that on maybe 6 months ago or whatever. We talked about that.
Here?
Yeah, on the show.
That's great. Should we start over with a new one?
No, that's great, because that's really fun. Smart Final, for the listeners not...
Who brought that fact in?
I think I looked it up one time because I was coming in and out of the store, because I like that store. There's one right by my place.
That's right.
And it's easier than... It's like a small Costco.
Right.
Type of a thing.
Costco, which is not someone's name.
Johnny Costco? I think it's Cost and Company is actually the full name of the store though. But no, I love it. It's Smart Final is a great place, and that was an interesting
Maybe
thing.
they'll send us some free waters.
Hey, you know what? That's not a far-fetched idea, because we had Skittles. We had Seth Green on, and we were talking about a Skittle fact. I had some Skittles things. And the next thing I know, they're sending us like a duffel bag, like a legitimate duffel bag full of Skittles.
Tesla, Macintosh,
huge fan
Sub-Zero.
of yeah. Hey, Tesla, send John and I some cars.
Thank you.
Or even just some hats. Preferably some cars. But the hats we could sell on eBay.
We could wear the hats in the cars.
We could wear the hats.
We'll make it work.
We'll wear the hats and photographs, so then you can send us Teslas the next time, or even just give us, some SpaceX tickets to go up in outer space. Are you a fan of space or no?
I'm glad we have space. But
I'm glad outer space is there. But
I don't do great on roller coasters, so I'm not sure how I do in outer space.
You're one of the few. Okay, you don't like roller coasters?
Not particularly.
Okay. Do you have a ride that you enjoy?
I kind of like Space Mountain. That's about as maybe as dark. I've enjoyed that. I like Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know if that sounds not.
Those are fun. I mean, that's like a theme. My friends and I will always go on that one, like when we want to relax, because it's like a 7-minute ride. I feel like, and you're just hanging out on your phone, looking at pirates.
There's something about going to space, and they say you look back at the Earth and you see your insignificance and all that. I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Hey, have you ever been on a cruise? Because that'll make you total feel insignificant. Like when you're on the middle of a small boat in the middle of the ocean with nothing to be seen. Yeah, you feel insignificant. Don't go on cruises.
No, I'll
go to like a cruises are like I equate cruises to be like the Walmart of like a vacation. Like it takes like I feel like the cruises I've just been on the wrong cruises, but I feel like it's definitely like Walmart people on a boat because it's all like unlimited everything, and it's just like I don't know.
My parents have been on cruises, enjoyed them
my
very
parents
much.
go on them a
The
lot.
idea of moving hotel room where each day you're in a different city, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but you're literally in that city for like 8 hours, so it's not like by the time you get on and off the boat, it's really not a long
I
time.
think there's some cities that are 8 hours. Just if you're wanting a little bit more, in 2 days you say, "Oh, we've already seen this main."
The idea of a city is it's a good city for an 8-hour trip for a 6 hour.
I won't name these cities. No offense to people who live there.
It's a 6 hour city, like a gradient scale of how long you can be in each city.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
You get the
should we
ice
go
cream,
here?
you
Should
get
we
the
go there?
postcard, and you say you've seen it.
Jonathan, you were born in Demarest, New Jersey.
Demarest.
Demarest. Oh, okay, there we go. Demarest, New Jersey. What was that like growing up? Because I'm looking up here, and it seems it's quite a small town. As of 2010, the population was just under 5,000. That's less than my hometown. So that's a pretty small vicinity there.
Well, if that were a small town in the middle of Kansas, you would feel like it was a small town. But it's a small town with 15 small towns around
Fair enough.
it. So it was about half an hour outside Manhattan.
Okay.
My high school had 3 towns coming together to form that high school. So it wasn't isolating.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place. Now Demarest will send me hats and things like that. It was a very nice place to
we got a
grow up.
checklist going here. How much attire we can acquire.
We had grass and baseball fields and swimming pools and train tracks and a duck pond. Although the pond was overtaken by geese at one point.
Okay. Demarest, New Jersey. Did you go to New York a lot? Was that like your go-to?
Yeah, you go for weekends and see shows and concerts, and that was
and it's
easy.
only 30 minutes.
Yeah.
See, okay, so that's we were always like that makes me jealous because I was like 2 hours from Detroit in Michigan, so we had to drive 2 hours to go to concerts and all of that. Whereas like 30 minutes, you could probably did you get the train there?
No train. You could take the bus.
You could take the
or
bus.
you'd have to drive.
So where's that? Isn't there like a train that goes from New York to New Jersey that everybody talks about?
There is. That's down in Hoboken, I believe, Jersey City down there. So this was
that's further south.
For the geographies among us.
Yeah.
So there's the George Washington Bridge.
Okay.
Then there's the Tappan Zee Bridge, which they're rebuilding. And we were kind of right in between them. So if you go north of Manhattan, cross the George Washington, go north further.
Okay.
To Demarest.
Oh wow, that's great. Yeah, it's the Gateway region apparently located in the northeastern corner of New Jersey. It's the apparently it's actually weirdly enough, according to Wikipedia, it says it's part of the New York City metropolitan area.
I suppose that's fair enough.
So if it's that, I guess if the metropolitan area is that big. I mean, in theory, like Culver City, and you have all these other, Pasadena's the Los Angeles metropolitan area. So that makes a lot of sense.
I would say Demarest is absolutely the New York metropolitan
That's great.
area. All the ads we saw there would describe as mattress stores would be delivering to the...
Delivered to the Demarest. That's funny. That's great. It was founded in 1903.
Yes, I can tell you that because I remember as a young kid our 75th anniversary.
Okay.
At the old train depot, which was turned into I think an art center or a senior center.
Okay, by the time it was, or was it turned into the art center after the 75th or
no,
prior?
Before.
Okay, so you had the party there.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
What now? Was there? Because cities like this, like 75th, that's not that long. So in theory, when you went there could have been people that were there.
Well, that's true.
That lived in the area prior to. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't meet any. No one I knew was from there.
Okay, where's your family?
We hail
from?
from Brooklyn.
Okay, and they relocated,
and then relocated to New Jersey when I guess my parents, after they were married, moved across the river and are still there.
Okay,
I will give you this fun fact about Demarest, which may be fiction, but it's one of my favorite stories. So maybe someone will email you, because I've scoured the internet for truth and not been able to find it. That one year, our fire department went to a parade because your local towns would have parades and fire engines would drive. And while they were at a parade in another town, the fire station caught on fire and burned down.
No way.
I'm either sure that happened or sure I believe it happened.
let's say it happened.
And
if there's nothing on the internet about it, let's put stuff on the internet about it, and we'll make it a fact. I think that's how it works.
Fair enough.
Isn't that how the internet works?
That is.
So you're here. You wrote a movie that came out over this weekend because this comes out.
Right. It's Monday.
This is Monday. For those.
Yes. Amazing, right?
Yeah. It was great. I loved it. I really loved it. Kung Fu Panda 3. Now, you also wrote Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2.
That's
correct.
That's a yes.
Now, I'm looking on here because this interests me because I've dabbled in story writings, and I've had some things in pipelines of the sort to get made as far as like I wrote like the story for it, and then we're going to get better writers than me, like yourself, to do this. Now, Kung Fu Panda 1, you wrote that one, you and your writing partner wrote that film based off of a story by other people, according to what I'm reading on the internet. And what I'm reading on the internet obviously could be false. But as far as 2 and 3, there's I don't see a story by credit on those. So
that's
did you guys?
Correct. So the origin story.
Yes,
Kung
please.
Fu Panda was that the studio had been developing it with. So they came up with the title, brought in writers who came up with the basic outline of it. Then someone else came in and ended up writing. Someone else came up writing. Someone else came up writing. Then we came in. So we were. It's not the home stretch, but it was actually 2.5 years to 3 years that we worked on it.
Okay.
So really, animated movies, a lot of discovery, and this is a movie that went through many, many iterations. With some people working on it the whole time. So now there's some people who've been on the Panda franchise 10 plus years, 12 years. We've done a 10-year tour of it. So that was the first movie. The second and third, we were there from the beginning, coming up with the story and seeing it all the way through.
That's really great. Now, how did that, as far as I guess, how you were treated versus coming in as like a writer for hire to being in the creative process with coming up with the story and all that. What was it like? How did that change through like the conception meetings or whatever of going, okay, well, Kung Fu Panda 1 was a huge success. Now we need to follow it up with.
Well, it's always hard because you feel like you've barely survived that first movie because they're just hard to make.
Yeah.
And then great, good success. We're very happy. We're thinking of making another. What's the story going to be? Because usually with movies, you try to get a head start on what could there be another because you're hoping you'll get the call that we want to make another and you're at least prepared. And at one point it was promised that there would be 6 of them, but we certainly did not think no more than George Lucas. Well, he probably did have 6 planned out, but we did not. We just felt like we want to promise an epic.
Yeah.
And saying there are 6 of them that sounds big.
Biting a lot.
Yeah, and then we had to try to live up to that. And it's difficult, but I think the beauty of the character of Poe is that you always feel like he's sort of incomplete, that he's a low self-esteem guy, and the nice thing about that is when you give him success, he doesn't suddenly decide he's earned it. Instead, he fears losing it and wondering what's going to happen next and if he's going to fail the next time around. So it's relatable, and there's always another story to tell with something like that. We'll see if there's a 4th.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Now, going from 2 to 3, was there anything that might be in 3? Because like I have one of the, I have like the audio transcript printed out with George Lucas and Spielberg, and I think it was Kazan and someone else when they were coming up with the ideas for the first Indiana Jones.
Oh, it's a great read.
It's a great. I mean, I think the audio is floating around somewhere too, but there's a lot of things in that, like the cart in the cave chase and all that carried over to the subsequent movies. Was there anything going into writing these that couldn't fit or whatever that you ended up like shelving
only some random things, like the idea of the peacock? The villain of the second movie was someone, I think Nico, the production designer, had designed a peacock for the first movie. There was no room for him. And we had remembered, that peacock, that's a pretty cool, awesome design. Maybe that could be the villain. Why not?
Okay.
But I don't think we felt like there was story hanging over that we would remember that idea we had. Let's pull it in here. And usually they take so long and you write so many iterations of the script that you forget stuff. I'll watch the movie and think, that was a pretty funny line. Where'd that come from? And then realize we wrote it.
Yeah.
Because, again, we're not the only people throwing lines into the movie. The actors come up with it, the storyboard artists come up with a lot of stuff. So there are many voices as part of it.
That's I'm glad you bring that up, too, because I also have on here, it's listed as uncredited, and I'm a huge fan of this gentleman's work also.
Here we go.
And I have a feeling you know where this is going, and I'm just curious as far as due to it being like an uncredited and not the as they do in crediting writers. Charlie Kaufman, it says here, also did some screenplay writing for number 2. Is that a thing, or like what?
Well,
when you're an uncredited writer, to me, if you're uncredited, it's almost as if you're not contributing a substantial amount.
Correct. Well, I don't think Mr. Kaufman is going out there saying I did this movie and claiming credit for it. But in the course of a movie, a lot of times they'll bring someone in and just bounce ideas off, and the person in this case maybe would take a scene and say, well, here's what I would do with it. And then you say, okay, that's interesting. And then the person goes on their way, and the movie continues being made for 2 years. And then the movie comes out, and someone online finds out that a certain person was a writer of the movie. And all right, there it is.
Yeah. That's great.
But
That's
yes,
funny.
and the fire station burned down, and Charlie Kaufman wrote Kung Fu Panda 2.
Charlie Kaufman set the fire station on fire.
It's very possible.
Is what I heard. Now, so Kung Fu Panda is about a panda. Did you do? I have some panda facts here that I put together because I've watching documentaries and stuff like that, and also this maybe you did this, or maybe this is just like the computer guys or whatever. But I always read about these when it comes to like animated, like I've seen mini docs with like Pixar and stuff like that, and when they're in the process of creating and writing those movies, they'll maybe go to certain countries or whatever to get inspiration and see like architecture or anything like that. Did you get to travel?
We did.
You did?
For the second Panda movie, they took us all to China.
Get out of town.
And for my partner, me,
was that for research or just a business meeting with ODW?
No, it was research.
It was okay.
It was research, for sure. For us, it was seeing the scope and the scale of some of these places, and we got to meet pandas and pet them, and we went to the Shaolin Temple. So just inspiration for our artists. It was literally photographing or digitally photographing bricks, walkways, skies, all the textures in the movie that feel old.
Yeah.
All come from seeing these things and taking pictures of them and incorporating those pictures and those textures into the movie. So it was for them, it was a very specific thing. For us, it was more of the food, the smells, not that you can smell an animated movie, but you get a sense that you're there.
You get a feel for, and like describing, or when you're putting that feel into words, I got to imagine that helped a little bit as well. Just knowing, and almost seeing what I guess the artists are seeing as well to help tell a story in that environment.
Right, and how much can you tell? It's the tension in animation is how much can you tell with pictures.
Yeah.
And it seems strange for a writer to say that, but we're always trying to often put fewer words in. That words are great for the jokes, but for the emotion, and the technology enables you to do so much with facial expressions that you can often say a lot without actually having to say anything.
Absolutely. Well, like Mad Max Fury Road. How as far as like actual script, it was mostly told through like visuals and like feeling almost. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's as like a writer and as a storyteller, if you can convey the same emotions and the feeling, it would almost be more powerful. I feel like you would be a better storyteller if you could use like the fewer words to get the exact, to get your feeling and your emotion across.
We once said these movies, which take so long to make, is that it's like, you'll probably look this up, really old, aged balsamic vinegar. If you've ever seen it, it's super, super thick.
Yeah.
And you just use a little bit of it. And the script ends up being like that, where everything, you might have 3 sentences. And then it's, it's long. Can we get it down to 2 sentences? And then you say, well, now those 2 sentences are on 3 lines of 2 sentences. Well, maybe we only need 2 lines, and it starts compressing. You'll watch a scene and say, well, I don't even think we need to say that. You totally get he's saying that, and then it becomes the essence of story. It all starts off being written, but then a lot of times the writing we do isn't with the intention of this will be in the final movie. It's with the intention of this will tell the directors, the storyboard artists, the actors, everyone reading it what we're intending there, and then they can go off and create that visually.
Yeah, it's definitely, as far as especially DreamWorks goes, Kung Fu Panda I feel like, has really put it on the. I mean, obviously there was the Shrek movies, but as far as just animation advancement in the look and the feel of those types of movies, I feel like Kung Fu Panda really took DreamWorks in the next step, because then they had like How to Train Your Dragon and all of those, and as far as just really and the advancement of the storytelling with the characters and the you got the hairs and everything, and telling stories without words. I feel like those movies really step up the bar versus like the Shrek. Like, I mean, you look at those and you almost need it's so solid, whereas they need to speak to convey an emotion, whereas like in these movies. I mean, it could just be the writing, better writing.
No,
do you know what I mean?
not.
But do you get what I'm saying? Like,
I do, but I think there's a sense, and by sense I mean what you read online, of that there was a style of movie at DreamWorks, and that's probably just because Shrek was so wildly successful. And I remember the first time I saw it, thinking, you cannot tell this isn't real. Yeah. The skies looked like real. It was not a cartoon. It was a movie. Yeah. And it was such a success. I feel like people thought some of the movies that came after it at DreamWorks were following a bit of a similar style. Like, Disney's going to do this, but this is our style. And then that style, which is kind of ironic, a little pop culture-y, became the style. Yeah. And then it kind of got tired. People didn't want to, there's another one of those. And then Panda came along, Dragons, and a lot of the stuff DreamWorks is doing, even the ones that didn't break that big, weren't saying we're going to copy that formula. Each movie is its own tone. But it's a hard thing to find a tone of a movie. Many movies drift around trying to figure out exactly how sincere or how ironic to make it. And the directors of the first Kung Fu Panda, Mark and John, really felt like this isn't a parody. We love Kung Fu movies. We're inspired by them, and it's a panda, yes, but we're not going to make a parody of a Kung Fu movie. We're going to make a Kung Fu movie. And it was setting that tone and making Po sincere that I think is what made it what it was. It's definitely and I feel that exact same way when I watch those movies, because there's definitely something about a good animated movie, and I use that as just to decipher the difference between movies, because in the end, to me, they're movies. I'm just a huge fan of movies, and when you watch good animated movies, that adjective drops out of it, and it just becomes a good movie. And that's exactly what like the Kung Fu the Panda movies are. Is they're action Kung Fu type of movies set in in China with these characters that you relate to and you feel for, and the visuals and the animation and just the stories there, to where you forget that you're watching like an animated movie. You feel like you're just watching a normal action movie. And what I love about animation is I think it's in some ways it's easier to buy into it. There's something about the remove from reality that when I watch it, you project yourself into it more than when you watch. Look, I love The Martian, but that's Matt Damon. 100%. 100%. Look, how do you think they did that? 100%. There's definitely, and that's what I liked about like the new Star Wars. They cast Rey, who they cast Daisy Ridley as Rey, who I've never seen in anything before. So I attached to her more versus the others. Much like in The Martian, like you're watching these movies, or like even in like the new Batman vs Superman, it's like that's Ben Affleck dressing up like Batman. Like I want to dress up like Batman.
Who doesn't want to dress up like them? Exactly. But there's very few. I mean, like Daniel Day-Lewis can do that. But and I'm not talking ill of Matt Damon. Matt Damon's, they're all talented.
It's nothing. It has nothing to do with talent.
Exactly.
It's having to do with
the escapism of it's Matt Damon on Mars by himself listening to disco music.
And the great movies, and that's one of them. You put that aside, but I think it takes a little bit of work sometimes, and it takes a great actor to make you forget his or her previous performances. And animation is, when it's done well, you don't have to worry about that. When it's not done well, it's a voice.
It's a celebrity voice. Exactly. That's when that's one of my biggest pet peeves with animation is now and then you'll get the not done well version, and you're watching this, and then all of a sudden you hear this voice, and it's like, oh, that's the guy from that one show, and it's such a when the voice casting isn't done perfect, it really throws a wrench in the escapism.
I won't comment on any other animated. Well, for the most part now, I think animated movies are beautifully cast.
I think they figured out, at least the big ones that get released, they really figured out.
Yeah, and actors enjoy doing it. I look at the cast of Kung-Fu Panda. It's Oscars everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's unbelievable. It's Bryan Cranston. It's J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
It's
Angelina Jolie.
Oh, yes, Angelina. And Jack, who deserves an Oscar for something.
He was great in Bernie.
Yes.
He was great in
School of Rock is one of the all-time greats.
He was great in, what was it? It wasn't Greed. It was the one with Ben Stiller and Flan. It was that, like, the dramedy that it didn't do really well, but it was where he was like an inventor, and he invented the spray.
Oh, the poo spray.
Yeah, the poo spray. That was a good movie. And,
I like Orange County, if you take it back.
Yeah. There was another one where I feel like he was in like a drama or something like that, but he's talented.
The Holiday?
That was a good movie too, where, I mean, that was more of like a rom-com, but I mean, he really, like, and they say, like, a lot of comedic actors have huge range, and they really, they need to start tapping into more comedic actors for some of these, like, darker dramatic roles, because I feel like you could almost get a little bit more of that. I don't know. There's definitely something to be said about
it's the same thing that happens
actors.
in writing, which is you do something, you get known for that, and then the assumption is, well, that's what you do. Yeah. And for actors, I'm sure it's even harder. For writers, you can always write yourself out of a genre into, well, I could do this too. But I can't only write animation, though much of what I do is animation because I know it and understand it. And Jack does a lot of comedies, but he's incredible.
Yeah. Kung Fu. This is what's interesting about Kung Fu. I was reading this. Kung Fu isn't technically. It's really only become a reference for martial arts over the last century. Originally, Kung Fu, it's a Chinese term referring to any study, learning, or practice that requires patience, energy, and time to complete. Often used in the West to refer to Chinese martial arts, but it is only in the late 20th century that this term was used in relation to the martial arts by the Chinese community. And then what was it here? I had another thing.
So it's like a branding thing.
Yeah, it originally was more of like for the etymology, it derives from Gong Fu, which was prior to Kung Fu. And in Chinese, it's a compound of two words combining Gong, meaning work, achievement, or merit, and Fu, which is alternately treated for like man. And so it was like the study of things. It originated as being
a Kung Fu writer would mean I work and I'm a man who works and studies that.
Like a Kung Fu master of writing type of thing like that. It originated from like honor and respect and patience. Like, because that's what a lot of those old martial arts they teach the act of like patience and calmness, and that's where it derives from Kung Fu. Then over the years they've attributed it to the martial arts and the patience.
Have you studied Kung Fu?
I have not. As a kid, I took Taekwondo classes I got up to be white belt, yellow stripe. I think is the second level from the bottom.
Is that when they put just the duct tape, kind of a yellow electrical tape?
A yellow electrical tape. They cut a little piece of electrical tape and they wrap it around your belt. What about you? Did you take any classes?
No, none. My partner did. He was a black belty type
okay, dangerous
thing. He hasn't used it on me, but he's broken his nose or a shoulder. He was doing. If he were here, he would actually tell you.
Yeah.
You could look it up. There's kind of a Russian fighting style that seemed to involve you try to attack the teacher and he just puts you down.
Sambo?
That doesn't sound right.
Let's see here. Attack teacher. Let's see here. Let's see if my Googling words. Sistema?
Yes. There it is.
Sistema.
So he'd come back from a Sistema weekend with a broken rib and bruises. Oh, yeah.
He would just go like, hey, what are you doing this weekend, Glenn? I'm going to go attack some people and get...
Well, no, his teacher.
Oh, his teacher. Well, I'm going to go attack my teacher.
It was the scene of the movie where the teacher says, come at me, and 10 students surround him, and he takes them down one at a time.
The teacher's just that good. I mean, obviously he's a teacher.
Well, you'll...
Sistema, literally meaning the system,
yes,
is a Russian martial art. Training includes, but is not limited to, hand-to-hand combat, grappling, knife fighting, and firearms training. Training involves drills and sparring without set kata.
There you go.
In Sistema, the body has to be free of tensions, filled with endurance, flexibility, effortless movement, and explosive potential.
I think we all aspire to that.
Yeah. That's wild. And he just attack, and he comes back broken. Like the master doesn't care. He's just going to debilitate you.
Well, you either go away and he starts something, or you come back and
train
prove
and come
how much
back.
you want it.
That's great. That's actually that's in theory. I guess that should be. That's like almost taking this super nerdy here about Star Wars. It's like the Sith. In the original, in the original sixth, how there can only be there's the master and then there's the apprentice. And in order to become the master, you need to, like in Return of the Jedi, the Emperor wanted Luke to kill Darth Vader because he wanted a new apprentice. But Darth Vader wanted Luke to kill the Emperor, so then Darth Vader could become the master, and then Luke would be the apprentice.
I feel like the entire subtext of Star Wars is a bureaucratic power struggle.
Yeah.
It's really about the ins and outs of corporate life. In the new Star Wars, it seems to be, now I can't remember the characters' names, the two guys who are always standing before the holograph.
Yeah.
It's kind of sniping at each other.
Kylo Ren and Hux, General Hux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like the heir apparents thinking, well, I want the promotion.
Yeah. And they didn't like each other, and they both want the promotion.
And I think if they work together...
They could,
if this were my movie, they would work together and overthrow the Emperor and do things their way.
Yeah.
Because it's ridiculous that they keep building planets that explode.
And
there's got to be another way.
It's got to be. Well, and supposedly I haven't read them, but I've been told from friends of mine who are huge Star Wars nerds, they're kind of upset because of the way they went with this other planet. But there was a leader in the non-canon novels now who's like, this is dumb. Let's just build a bunch of these big ships so we can because in theory the big ships can move and you can surround people and surround planets and things like that. Whereas this, and then it's like, how many suns did it take from? Because it took the sun at one time.
They gave it back, right? At the end?
It had to have.
Well, we have the sun, and this took place in the past.
Yeah.
But this goes to prove another thing, which is that we can logic anything.
Yeah.
Even watching a movie, we always talk about the logic of a movie, and I don't think audiences are often demanding that of their movies. They're seeking emotion and entertainment, and we often think that they require logic, and you can be very unentertaining being very logical. Yeah.
Well, and I got friends who didn't like I loved the movie. I thought it was a fun movie. Friends of mine who are like they're pulling in the logic card, but then it's like they'll completely accept the fact that people can use the Force for things, but then when there's science logic, they can't it takes them completely out of the element. So you met pandas when you were in China.
Yes, lovely.
Generally known as the giant panda, also known as the panda bear or simply panda. It's in Chinese. It's simplified to as black and white catfoot, is their Aileropoda melanolucia, which is the science word for it. I'm pronouncing that wrong, but the name giant.
Well.
The name giant panda is sometimes used to distinguish it from the unrelated red panda. I don't know if you're familiar with the red panda.
That's what Shifu is. He's the red panda.
The red panda it's like a wolf-like creature, and we've mentioned this prior on the podcast, but the Mozilla Firefox logo is a red panda. It's not actually a fox. It's a red panda.
Now I think about it, you're right. What is the Chrome logo?
The Chrome logo. I'm trying to remember what the Chrome logo is.
I believe it's a four-color, something representing the four major disciplines of internet use. The red represents anger.
Okay.
The green is jealousy.
What's the yellow and the blue?
The yellow is racist comments. And
trolling.
The blue is sadness.
Okay, I will agree with that. Put that into Wikipedia, guys. The Chrome logo, Google Chrome. Normally the panda, it's scientifically it's considered a carnivore, but the giant panda, their diet is generally 99% bamboo and trees of that sort.
We fed them apples.
Okay, so they're primarily they're technically carnivores, but they're essentially vegetarian.
Well, they probably don't know that's what they are.
Yeah, they just love eating this.
You just keep giving them. There are people working with them who have a vested interest in not telling the pandas that they're carnivores.
Teaching these giant creatures. Let's just teach them to eat these these trees and these plants and that's funny.
The day will come.
They eventually. It's like Planet of the Apes. As soon as they realize that they can take over, or ants. Like, I hate ants, and there's so many ants on this planet. It's like if the ants were smart enough, they could realize that they could just take over.
But what would they do?
The ants? I don't know.
There was that movie. It terrified me as a child. Didn't the ants carry someone into a heating grate of a house under a stairway?
No, that's freaking me out right now.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
There was little ants, and the person would be sleeping. They come under them, and then they would take them away. It's very possible it wasn't ants, and it was little people. The people under the stairs.
That's small people.
I don't know. Maybe my brother will email you the name.
If you've seen that movie, shoot us an email because that's an interesting movie. Or it's like Arachnophobia, or like The Birds. The Birds is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen because they have the high ground, and you hear things about like bird flu or whatever, and there's these fungus that will like take ants and other sorts of creatures where it's like turns them into a zombie. Then they'll go and they'll like perch on like a plant, and then they'll shoot out spurs, and then it'll go and infect more things. And anytime, or like you think of like rabies and how it makes dogs and these other creatures vicious. And if there was like a bird form of rabies, I mean, we would be screwed because like there's. Like, The Birds is just one. When it comes to creature movies, I feel like creature movies are some of the scariest movies to me because in the end, we are just, as you mentioned about going up into outer space, insignificant in the sense that we're surrounded by all these animals who have higher ground and are way stronger than we are.
And I think the scariest thing is the bad guy in the movie who just doesn't care.
Yeah.
His purpose is just to propagate.
Yeah.
That's what the zombies do.
Oh.
That's what I assume what the guy in Game of Thrones who raises his hands.
Yes.
You can't see me doing that, but I'm.
Yeah, the White King, the Ice King. Yeah. What's up with that? Like,
he just wants his people to follow him, and he's just gonna make more of it.
It's like, bro, freeze the water and walk over to the boat.
Well, you can tell by his look
that
waiting. He has a sense of the dramatic in addition to an undead army.
That was
good,
that was
but he had that look.
Holy
he had
cow.
I knew the fight was coming because you watch a couple episodes before and you think, there's a lot of people sitting around in a room talking. They're not spending on this one. They're saving it up.
Oh, yeah.
And they spend it.
Another bottle episode. 2 more episodes is going to get
I'm
really
very
good.
Excited. Not that I'm here to promote Game of Thrones. I'm excited.
No.
Excited to have that come back.
Oh, do you think he's alive? Do you think he's dead? I mean, he's obviously alive.
I don't want to comment.
You don't want to comment? Do you know anything?
I don't know a single thing. I except what I read online, which now
are you a spoiler fan? Do you read it?
No, I don't want to know. But he was putting out there very much trying to convince people he's dead, which either means he's alive or means he's actually dead because he's a very honest fellow. So I don't know what.
Or his
believe.
PR team's like, you got to do this. Or he's trying to be clever and be like, no, I was just hanging out on set for 3 months.
They're my friends. I worked with them. The thing I wonder about Game of Thrones is if you're the guy who's casting, you're very excited, but you're going to work the wall. You mean I don't get to go to Croatia for 6 months? No, you're wear this furry thing, and you're never going to meet the women of the cast. You're only going to be there with the guys up there.
Yeah, like Tyrion, who plays what's his name? I'm trying to remember the Tyrion.
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage, like he gets to do all this traveling and go to all these cool sets. And Jon Snow's
a lot
just
of times they bring him there in a box. I don't know if that's just on the show.
I mean, they did that one season, but he still got to go to different locations.
No, that's true. Now, I was in Croatia where they shot it. It's absolutely beautiful, except they don't have all the CG extensions on the buildings you see on the show. When you see what they do to make that show, there's nothing real anymore.
That show is so good. I gotta go to. I need to travel more because things like that interest me as well.
Well, it's
just what they do to places. Yeah, all right. Oh, I'm gonna go to Croatia right now. That's a beautiful show.
A lot of cruises. A lot of cruises. A cruise
now,
ship.
if you had to rate Croatia on a hour scale of how long you could visit there, what would the hour frame be on like Croatia?
There's so many different cities. There's Dubrovnik, which is where the cruise ships go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a 2 or 3 day.
Oh.
There's a lot to do there.
That's good.
So
that's
tours
high up on the list. That's a prime, a 2 or 3 day.
The cruise ships seem to give it a day, though.
Yeah.
My scale and the cruise ship scale. Because you'd go to town and there would be 10,000 people walking through town, and then you go the next day and there'd be 1,000 people.
Oh.
And it all depended on whether the cruise ship was there or not there.
Find out when the cruise ship leaves, and then go so you can really be a tourist.
Unless you want to feel like you're in the most crowded, awesome place and everyone's there.
There's something, I forget who said it. It was a quote or whatever, but it's like, don't be a tourist, be a local or something like that. And when it comes to like traveling places like that, I would want to be like the local. I would want to really immerse myself in like seeing the place, going to the places that like Game of Thrones maybe films at, but as like the local, like experiencing the history of of it versus.
But don't you think we always think we're locals?
Yeah,
and we're always the tourists.
I mean, I lived in Chicago for 9 months, and I didn't do a lot of the touristy stuff. And now, like 6 years later, 7 years later, every now and then I'm like, I should have done that. I should have gone there.
What are they calling that? Willis Tower? They changed the name, right?
From the Sears Tower. It's like nobody's going to call this Willis Tower. Like people still call it the Sears Tower.
But only because I'm being paid by the Willis.
Hey, the Willis Corporation.
I don't even know what they are.
It's like the company in Aliens, the Wayland Corporation. It's the Willis Corporation. Believe it or not, they've given me hats, and they told to give me you a Willis hat.
Is this true? Oh,
a Willis hat. Hey, Willis Tower, send us some Willis T-shirts or like a Willis polo shirt.
But they'll
never. Or a hoodie.
This is podcasting, and it's a tough thing for swag.
Yeah.
No one sees it, but I will say that you are wearing
Get us to the top
a Coca-Cola bandana and headband combination, which is
huge fan of Coca-Cola.
Distracting.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of upset because you're wearing Pepsi attire, and it's like, hey, bro, this is a Coke podcast, none of this Pepsi stuff. But if you want to sway us, you could send us Pepsi, and I could maybe
do the
taste test. Which, believe it or not, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I don't know if you know this. The Pepsi Taste Challenge is the reason why they made New Coke in the 80s, because everybody preferred. Like, according to the Pepsi taste test, everybody preferred Pepsi over Coke in the blind taste test. So Coke wanted to figure out how to circumvent that. So they made New Coke, which tasted way more like Pepsi, but then nobody liked it. So then they, as a branding ploy, they went back to Coca-Cola and they labeled it Classic.
Correct.
And then the sales from then on, Coca-Cola just decimated Pepsi's sales.
And I think what we learned from that is people's what you like and what you say you like are very different things.
Completely. One more thing here while we wrap up here. Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes,
you worked on that. The Squeakquel. My buddy Zach was in that movie.
Yes,
he played the uncle or the cousin. I can't remember.
He was excellent. I never met him.
Yeah, nice guy. But Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes.
Did you do? Now, that's always something that fascinated me. I got a couple facts here we'll go into, then you will see if you have any good stories about that. Originally, David Seville and the Chipmunks, or simply the Chipmunks, for those of you that don't know, it was created by a gentleman by the name of Ross Bagdasarian Sr. For a novelty record in 1958. But prior to that, he actually released a record with his voice sped up, doing the same process. He records it slower, then he speeds it up to regular speed, called The Witch Doctor. And that blew records away. So then he ended up taking that process, and the Chipmunks first officially appeared in their Christmas song, "Christmas Don't Be Late," which broke records. It spent 4 weeks at number one, and it also earned 3 Grammy Awards and a nomination for Record of the Year, The Alvin and the Chipmunks. What was it like writing that movie with such a broad history to draw from? Because I grew up on the Chipmunks cartoon in the 80s. So I was just wondering
I wish I could say that there was a thought to. Well, I'll put it this way: I didn't feel like we had to honor the past of the Chipmunks, and we were working with Ross Bagdasarian Jr. and his wife Janice are very, very involved. They're the keepers of the franchise, so none of my brain had to go towards. I don't think Alvin would say that kind of thing because they were there to make sure you were keeping it.
Yeah.
Keeping it there. But really, one of the things we've learned is that when you take a project like that, you can't think of it as the great Alvin that is this way or that way. You have to find a way into the story. So if it's about Dave and the Chipmunks, it's a father-son story, and you have to find a way to make that resonant for your audience. And for the parents out there, for me as a parent bringing my kids, I want something for me in the movie, in addition to something from them.
Yeah.
I also find that they cast these really very funny actors to do the voices, and then they record them half speed, speed them up, and you
can't even understand.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure everyone knows that it's
Justin Long and a couple others. I mean, I guess the marketing behind that is obviously for the name above the title or whatever, and the talk show junket, I guess.
Alvin's the star.
Yeah.
You don't need those names.
No. I mean, exactly. I mean, you can have and as an agreeance, they'll put the Muppets on talk shows and things like that. Why couldn't they, do the CG and computer and script a interview on Fallon with Alvin? That'd be great.
Yeah,
I'd watch the hell out of that.
Maybe just no one cares.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this day and age, if you put Alvin and the Chipmunks on the Fallon, I mean, that would be a billion hits on YouTube.
Well, they put him in the theaters 3 weeks ago, and that didn't seem to catch on. So
fair enough.
Some of these things it's lightning in a bottle, and sometimes maybe fourth time isn't the charm, and we'll see.
That's right. It was the fourth one. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Kung-Fu Panda 3 is in theaters right now. Go and see it. Go and see it twice, and then tweet about it and make sure.
They are saying this is their marketing, especially in China, where they've done a Mandarin language version where they didn't just dub it; they actually reanimated to different actors in Chinese.
Really?
So they say see it in Mandarin, see it in English, and then see it in Mandarin again, so you can help decide which is your favorite version.
Go see it 3 times.
Yeah, so it's no longer enough to say, please see our movie. Now we're saying, please see it 3 times.
But something like that is interesting to me only in the sense that, when I'll watch a Netflix, I'll like to put on the subtitles on some of these foreign films because there's something about taking 3 words in English and elongating it into what seems like more words and Mandarin or in a foreign language and having having these actors enunciate it in that dialect. And there's something about it, the origin of it. It's generally I think it's more beautiful in that native language type of a thing. I don't know.
Well,
does that make sense? And then to translate, to know what they're saying, but hearing it?
Well, it's a strange thing for this movie because I spent these years writing it, and then someone else will take it and turn it into another language, and different actors will record. I have no idea if what's translating, what the word I know they have to change certain idioms that don't make sense. So I hope the people who see it there are seeing the same movie we made.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I mean, it's currently 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's amazing. That's really great. Kung Fu Panda 3.
Do you pronounce it tomato meter or tomatometer?
Rotten Tomatoes or tomato? Okay, so we're taking out the Rotten Tomatometer
or tomato meter.
Tomato meter. I feel like tomato meter. Tomato meter. Is it one word?
It is, but tomatometer sounds better to me.
Tomatometer.
Tomato-meter. Now I've lost.
Tomatometer. I would have to say it would be tomato. If the E is there, then it would be tomato meter.
Do people listening to this know you have a computer in front of you?
Sometimes they do. They should. I mean, we've taken photos.
Otherwise, I sound dumb and you sound brilliant.
No, well, if you heard me on a day-to-day basis, your judgment would vastly decline. Kung Fu Panda 3. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And everybody go see that movie.
Word to Demarest.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.